Hey everybody, it's another episode. Good to see y'all back. Did some YouTube shorts and things like that and clipped up some shows a little bit to keep myself in the algorithm, but it's been a second since I've done a show. A lot going on in life as such. I hope everybody's okay. I'd like to say, since the last full episode that I did, I'm now up to 75 subscribers. So, um, very small, very small number, but big to me because when I started doing the show here, I had 9 subscribers. So, gaining a little bit of motion, and slow motion is better than no motion. We all know that. So, um, I'm happy about that. So shout out to all those wonderful people that feel like I've maybe found a niche. I mean, I get that my content typically is not everyone's cup of tea. I'm not as engaging as a lot of people. My content doesn't involve a lot of shock jock type of things, and um, in a lot of ways, I'm rather restrained. I think the more that I do this, the more loose I'll get as far as doing a podcast, doing them on a more regular basis. But I'm really at this point just getting my feet wet, and so far I'm liking the results. But it's really hard to try to come up with topics every day, or even when I'm taking a break and trying to think about what I want to talk about. Like, I record a lot of stuff to myself, and sometimes I don't go back or sometimes I go back and listen to it, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know if that's show worthy. Um, One of those topics is that I've really gotten into looking up my lineage and where my family comes from, especially having moved back south. So that's been very interesting. I'm planning on doing a show about it, especially for people who want to look up their genealogy and all the resources that are available to do that with as minimal cost possible. There's definitely a way. In a future episode, I'll get into that. If anyone's interested, please DM me. And always make sure to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy this content. So today's topic, I delved a little bit into a few different things over the past week about what to do a show on, and one of the things that I'm actually very interested in is things of the paranormal, and I don't really discuss this very much, um, but I really believe a lot in things that are abstract and not of this earth sort of thing. I think that there are things and powers beyond our comprehension that kind of dictate how we move in life. I tend to feel strongly about certain things. Like, do I believe in ghosts? I more would say it's more energy than actual ghosts. I think people feel the energy, especially when something happens in like a house where something bad happened. For YouTube sensibilities, I don't want to get too graphic, but um, anywhere where someone's been unalived or something like that, there's definitely a thickness and an energy. I know I certainly felt it when my uncle passed away in the house that I lived in when I was 17. Uh, I actually watched him pass. He was very ill. It was the first time in my life I'd actually seen that happen. And I could say that energy lingered, So I do believe that we have an energy that even when we, pass on, our energy still resonates somewhere in the universe. And people can still feel it. I do believe these things. And so some of that, I think I want to kind of get into a little bit more. Um, Mainly thinking about this whole Mandela Effect thing. I decided that I wanted to kind of touch on this a little bit today, and I would love to hear your responses about why we think this happens. For those of you, and that's a small few, I'm pretty sure everyone knows what the Mandela Effect is, but let me put on these ugly ass reading glasses. Um, so, according to certain definitions, it's basically remembering something that doesn't match with historical records. And so, perfect example is Nelson Mandela himself. Uh, Nelson Mandela was released from prison. Let me pull this up. And so this is very interesting um, when you think about this type of stuff that goes on, because we all have these memories. And so, for instance, Mandela served 27 years in prison. Let me see, when does it say that he got released? It really doesn't. There it goes. Hold on. Sorry, this just. He was the first president of South Africa from 1994 to 1999. However, regardless of when he was released, there is thought for a lot of people that felt like he died in prison. And so there's a whole timeline about that where people feel like he passed away in prison. And I remember him becoming president. I remember him getting out, and I remember him doing a world tour, which, by the way, in that world tour, it was Donald Trump's plane that was lent to him by Donald Trump to do that world tour. And I'm not saying anything either way. I just find that interesting caveat. However, he did a whole tour of the world and did a bunch of speeches everywhere. I think he even did something at the UN, and he ended up becoming vice president, or becoming president of South Africa. And this was after apartheid had ended. And if you don't know what apartheid is, it was basically laws based on racism, like actual laws, similar to Jim Crow. Jim Crow was very, how do you say it? The laws weren't directly written, but they all had loopholes that would involve segregation and things like that, and voting restrictions among African Americans. And so these were actual laws about what black people could own and couldn't, where they could be and couldn't. A really good person to look up or talk to, or listen to rather, not talk to, is Trevor Noah. He does an interview on the Breakfast Club. Shout out to Breakfast Club, where he explains what it was like growing up in apartheid South Africa. And so it's very interesting. However, anyway, there are many people that believe that Nelson Mandela did not become president and actually passed away. So that spins off into other things. It goes into the movie Shazam. Does anybody remember a movie named Shazam with the actor and comedian Sinbad? Think about it. Do you remember that movie? Apparently, that movie never existed. There's Kazam that Shaquille O'Neal played, but everybody swears that there's a Kazam movie. Sinbad himself has said that he has never been in a movie called Shazam. Yet, some of us remember a movie called Shazam. So, comment if you have theories on that one. There's also Fruit of the Loom. Now, this one, I don't get it, because I thought one thing forever. And with Fruit of the Loom, it's a whole situation of the cornucopia that the fruit spilled out of. Apparently, there was never a cornucopia. And I remember a cornucopia on the little labels when I had my little tidy whities when I was a kid. Because I remember wondering, why was a cornucopia here? So, and if you don't know what a cornucopia is, Google it. It's kind of hard to explain. It's not really hard to explain, but it's something that's definitely not really seen anymore. But anyway, so there are people in my generation, and I'm very curious as to what y'all think as far as the cornucopia is concerned on Fruit of the Loom. A big one for me, and this is where it really throws my mind, is that if anyone remembers the actor Della Reese, Della Reese, from what I remembered, she died in 2011, 2012. And I feel like I specifically remember that because I was working overnight at this hotel as an auditor. And I went in and I was looking up stuff at work and looking up the news and everything. And the next thing you know, it said that Della Reese had died. And I remember, I feel like it was right after Red Fox died. And um, they had a show together. And so I was under the impression, and I feel like I remember that she may have passed away over a broken heart behind him because they were really close or something like that, but it was not long after. So, come, I'd say, November 2017, I'm at work and someone says, "Rest in peace to Della Reese." And they had a picture of her, and I was like, "This is old news. This happened already." And they're like, "No, she just passed away today," and it blew my mind. So, what causes that? What causes this collective division of consciousness, if that makes sense? What causes that? Um, there are some theories about it. One of the theories is that the super hadron collector in I want to say in Switzerland, I think CERN, and that's a large machine under the ground that's meant to smash atoms together. And so when it was being built, it's like one of the largest man-made machines ever built. And when it was being built, and people were putting out there what it was supposed to do, there was this whole thing about, well, what if it creates a wormhole or messes with the fabric of reality? And people were like, no, there's no way that would ever happen. This is too, it's not that kind of science, basically. Well, there are people that are thinking that when they turned this thing on, it kind of changed everything because people point to things um, that have occurred throughout history since then that things just got really topsy turvy. One of them is Donald Trump becoming president. I know that was one of them, and how much there was a paradigm shift in our reality, and people feel like that wasn't by accident, that these scientists turned on this machine. And so, what I want to look up is the when did CERN get turned on? And so uh, there's a reason for that. The reason why I want to look this up. So the Large Hadron Collector says the first collisions were achieved in 2010. So when they say collisions, what they're talking about is when they were colliding atoms together to see if they could find the Higgs boson, which is supposed to be the God particle. It's the particle that brings everything together, all mass. And so this is supposed to be, in theory, there, but, never really been found at some point or whatnot. I think they have seen it since then, but pretty much since 2010. So people feel like around 2012 is when things started getting weird in the world. And people feel like that is a difference, that this machine changed the timelines for people. Um, there's also people who say, and it goes back again to 2012, that we all died. And so what we're having is when a person passes, they still have brain activity, and they're saying that this is all one big dream as a result of collective brain activity because we all perished due to some event in 2012, which might also be attached to this Large Hadron Collider. It's a whole lot of different theories behind it. Then there's some that is just, hey, maybe we're just confusing our memories, because what people have to understand about memories is that memories are actually chemically based. I never thought that I would say it that way, but it's the honest truth. Memories are chemically based. There are neurons, there are, endorphins and hormones and things like that. All these things affect memory. This is why, like, a certain smell can bring back a certain memory, or a song can bring back a certain feeling, is because these are all things that induce the chemicals in our body to create these feelings. And so it even comes the same with memories. As you get older, if you notice, the details of memories get lost in the sauce sometimes, so to speak, especially if it's something traumatic. But even just getting older, trying to remember something when you were 7 or 8 was easier when you were 12 than it is now that you're pushing 50, if that makes sense. And so, what our brain tends to do is fill in the gaps on its own, based on the knowledge that's around it, or the experiences that the brain has had. Um, so it will fill in gaps somewhere. And we have so much going on, in life that, and in the world, that we don't actually always focus on all the little details. And so when we're asked about something that occurred years prior, it's all getting filled in. It's all, we remember key parts of it. And then sometimes even those, fall by the wayside. So a lot of it could be that, you know, Sinbad has a name like a genie. His name was already Sinbad. Shaq was doing a movie at the time called Kazam, and Sinbad was in movies. And so, is it easy enough to say that maybe some of our collective memory filled in the blanks that aren't actually accurate? Or do some of us actually do remember a movie called Shazam? Was there actually a cornucopia on the Fruit of the Loom label? Was it Berenstain, or was it Berenstein Bears? See what I mean? Very interesting, very interesting. But I would advise you to do some research. Like I said, I've had my own thoughts, own situations where I was like, I don't remember that being like that, but it happens a lot, apparently, even with Pokemon. Pikachu either does or didn't have a black spot on his tail. Let me be more accurate about that. I don't want to just say random stuff. Let's see. What is it? Let's see. Pikachu Mandela Effect. The tail. Okay, it said that this person says in their version of reality, Pikachu always had a black tipped tail. Did he or didn't he? I don't specifically remember, but it said that many people remember Pikachu having a black tip, but it's yellow with a brown base and does not have a black tip. So that would be an example of the Mandela effect. Interesting, interesting. So, what is some of your takes on that? I would be really interested to know what some of y'all think about this stuff, because it blows my mind on how often this happens, and the things that people have to say about it, and the different reasons that it might be occurring. Your responses would definitely be welcome. So, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and you know, let's see what we can do, right? Let's see if we can get some more subscribers. I think we can get somewhere, and I think my content is going to be a little more open. I do get that my stuff isn't always everybody's cup of tea. I got it. But again, this is a learning process, and I feel like I should be on YouTube. I do have a lot to contribute and a lot to offer, and I'm gonna find my niche. Just started this show back in October. Actually have episode 20 coming up. I'm gonna do something very special for episode 20. At least I'm gonna try to do something very special to recognize it. Might try to get a guest or two to come on. And another thing I would like to say is that if there is anyone out there that is a struggling creator or trying to collaborate or wants to collaborate, especially, I mean, pretty much we're linked around the world, but especially if you're here in the Mobile, Alabama area, that's great. Anywhere, but if you'd like to collaborate and maybe get together and exchange some ideas and possibly do a joint podcast, I'd be very, very interested. Would love to have someone on a regular basis as well to bounce things off of. I mean, this is so great when I can talk to you all candidly one on one, but I kind of want to mix things up a little bit. But I will always make sure that we have our one on one sessions because those are important to me. Like I said, when I started doing these videos, they weren't necessarily about anything other than leaving something out there for posterity and having something on record um, about my thoughts and my feelings about life and things like that and my experiences. Maybe one day it'll be worth something, and who knows. But shout out to everybody doing very well in my life. Shout out to my children. I love you all. Miss you all very much. Um, Life is good. Life is good. My stepson is graduating from college. I'm very, very excited about that. He's an awesome, awesome young man. And so this is well deserved, and he's going to go on to great things. And I'm certainly happy to be a part of his journey. Life is good with the wife. Everything's going good. We're happy, and uh, it's a great feeling. It's a great feeling. So, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and end it here. Think about some of the stuff that we've talked about. If you have any thoughts on the show or want to add any input about what was discussed today, feel free to DM me. I do upload clips on Facebook. Also, I'm here on YouTube. One of these videos down here is going to pop up to kind of let you see some other stuff. Probably be worth checking out. And that's that. Stay safe out there. Keep that third eye open. And everybody, try to be good to one another. Even a smile or a thumbs up.